Who's gonna feast on Earth's sky and drink their rivers dry? Who's gonna stop their mountains into fine Martian dust? Till the rains fall hard on Olympus Mons, who are we? I can't hear you! Who are we?
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Raiders of the Lost Flicks. Remember, if it's a bad movie, we want to know about it. And I'm Adam Wilcox, your host, raidersofthelostflicks.com. I'm back with Nik and I from the World Class Bullshitters and also my Friday Bad Movie Watch and Review. If you guys don't know about that, we do have to introduce two characters, which are two of my favorite characters.
Yes, but before we get that, there's the wonderful Expanse art book that Adam has the description of in the link below. If you do want to support Adam, the link is in the description below. Buy it. If you buy it, you'll be satisfied. If you love the show, it's beautiful. It looks great. Let me see if I can get something from it. Let's see. Oh, there we go.
Yeah,
that's a good one. Beautiful in there. It's a beautiful art book. It's a good coffee table book. It's a good conversation starter. You can get people into the show if you love it. Click the link in the description below. Help Adam out by buying yourself this awesome book.
Great for a last-minute Christmas gift. Just saying, you know.
Definitely.
You can do these things. We want to introduce Bobby Draper, played by Frankie Adams.
Fine Martian dust. Till the rains fall hard on Olympus Mons, who are we? I can't hear you. Who are we?
Yeah, I didn't know I'd have feelings for a woman in armor from Mars, but I do.
She's just as sexy as she is strong, and that's one thing we want to mention. We get a lot of crap like, oh, you guys are geeks and you don't like strong women in a TV show. What we don't like is Mary Sue's. We have nothing against strong.
100%, and that's one thing I really adore about The Expanse. None of the women are Mary Sue's. They're not just like, oh, respect me because I'm a woman and respect me.
They're real, believable people. They're not just infinitely strong and everything because they're female. They're just, like we said in the last episode, this is really something that doesn't focus on sex and social politics and stuff like that. It is very much, there's a story. People are beyond that. There's a much bigger story to tell. And then, of course, I have the biggest crush on Drummer.
We are the belt. We are strong. We are sharp. And we don't feel fear. This moment belongs to us. For battle order.
Played by Cara G. It's Cara G or Cara G,
something like that. And
Canadian actress.
The funniest, the thing I love about her character is that she's a really gruff character. The way she talks and her mannerisms and everything, and she gives no fucks.
Yeah, she's got a very cool attitude, and I just like the way her accent, just the cadence of her. It just something about her, man. It's just like when she's on screen, I'm just kind of like. Just a little bit,
and the funny thing is, if you see her interviews, she obviously doesn't have that accent, but it's like she's so polite and little, and it's really funny to see the juxtaposition of her character and then her in real life.
So the last episode, I tried to set up the story, and I did a miserable job of it because apparently I don't do a very good job of taking notes. I know what's going on, but me trying to tell it to you, I miss huge chunks. So I'm going to let Nick take over this time and set up the story.
Okay, this is going to be super fast because it's season 2 and we're okay. Because the way season 1 ends and the way season 2 begins and the converging of 2 books into one season almost is going to be tough. All right, so here we go. Episode 1. We open with the Martian Marines. First time we ever see them, first time we ever interact with them is them training in a canyon, and you see how their suits work. They have guns, they have missiles, they have HUDs and things like that. Their suits decked the hell out.
When I was seeing that scene, the first thing that came to mind was Halo. It's like a scene straight out of Halo.
No shots in here. We're dressed if we don't move. Cover me. Grab target data when those bastards try to light me up.
Got it. Travis, right flank. Hillman, left. Roger, right.
Roger, left.
they've got guns on their wrists, you know, like little miniature mini guns, and I'm like, oh, that armor, you know? I mean,
that armor, bro, that armor, yeah. And the one thing they always talk about is in the show and in the book is that Reaper's armor is older than everybody else's by one like series. Like she's like everybody has Series 6, she has Series 5. And everybody always gives her crap for it, but the thing is that it works for her, and she knows how to utilize it with it not being as advanced.
You get attached to
that
stuff.
way.
Yeah,
she likes it that way, and she's too used to it to change. Because if she changes, it'll take her a long time to get used to the new stuff and figure it out and get it worn in. She likes what she likes. She's not going to change it. So we see the Martian Marines, and we see that they've been called by their higher ups to go fight something else, or be part of some raid that's happening with the UNN ships, the Earth ships. Along with that, we see James Holden and we see Miller just getting done with the radiation therapy and all the things they have to do.
They barely escaped from Eros. In this wonderful future, you can cure cancer by just putting a patch in your shoulder, and you just have to keep it there for the rest of your life. I'm thinking, okay, you know.
Yeah, and that's another thing that comes up in the book as well. He has to take a shot every day or every couple of days to sort of to keep it going, or else he'll just he'll die of cancer. But in the next, as the season goes on, we see Avasarala get more and more suspicious. Aaron Wright, her right hand, and she kind of suspects it, and she doesn't know what's going on, and she hires a spy, Kotier Ghazi. I forget. I can't.
Kotier. This guy is a badass. I love this guy
because
he's fucking great. Yeah.
Because he's not only is he a badass, he's funny as shit.
Yes.
He's really funny, especially in those really horrible moments.
Very good at what he does, and very matter of fact. He's like the perfect '80s action hero.
The Rocinante goes back to Tycho Station. They're just doing their thing, just kind of just resting after all this stuff with the Eros. We
didn't really mention much about Fred Johnson last time, so I think we should probably introduce Fred Johnson just properly. Yeah.
Fred Johnson is the owner and operator of Tycho Station. Tycho Station is a station that builds ships and things that are needed. It's a repair station. It's just a station that spins with the artificial gravity, so people can walk around and do things. They can have that. He's the one building the Nauvoo, which is the Mormon ship for them to go on their 100-year journey into space to the next star, whatever like that. That's the thing that's sitting next to Tycho Station that they're building the whole time. It's something you see in the show constantly. It's a giant ship. It's like gold and it's like a forever ship. It's ridiculous. The thing's gaudy as all shit. I swear, it's insane.
Isn't it? It's great. It's one of the greatest ships I've ever seen.
But it's one of those things where it's like when you hear the things they have to do to make it like this legacy ship, this thing that has to maybe be out there for 200 years, it is entirely ridiculous. The things that they having to do, like the air filters have to last for so long. They can't have loss of oxygen because they can't have even minimal losses of oxygen because they're going for so long. They can't have that. Every like rivets have to be re-riveted. They have to use higher quality materials in order to be on this ship for so long. Because of just
and this whole thing is built as this giant cathedral / planetary device so that Mormons can go out into space and tell you about the good word.
Basically, they want to pass on the good word to the other species out there. With that being said, the Rocinante is at Tycho, and they start getting somebody's pirated the signal from Eros, and they're pumping out a signal to what's happening. Apparently, with all the stuff that's being meddled together from human bodies on there, it's putting out an audio signal because of just the neurons and things of people's conversations that are just it's putting together. It's really morbid and weird.
It's creepy as hell.
Described in the book is a lot more horrifying than the show is. The show is really tame. Yeah. If this was done on Amazon, it would have been really, really visceral. The signal's being hijacked by some belters, go figure, and they've turned it into their own belter music or something. And they find out, I think friend Johnson finds out that there are scientists who are working on the protomolecule stuff at Thoth Station. So they have this crazy belter idea of going there and taking it out or bringing the science back or trying to figure out what's going on. And they know that there's one stealth ship there, a giant one. And it's this giant rotating scientific vessel. And this is probably one of the best episodes and the best moments in the show because this is a real mission where people are actually going to die. And Alex, the pilot of the Rocinante, has to be on his best fucking game. He goes through simulations and simulations of what might happen. happen, and he keeps failing. You keep seeing both the video game and simulations of what's happening. Keeps failing, and you see like everybody's trying to relax and get ready for it and stuff. Even Miller's on one of like the tin cans that like gets fired onto the station, glue it onto it, and then punch a hole through it in a very Belter fashion. Like they've transformed a shipping container into.
It literally says FedEx on the side of it, dude. Yeah, it looks like a fucking beer can with a rocket strapped to it.
It's the most Belter thing I've seen in the show, and I fucking love it. But it's like it's so weird because like you have Drummer and Fred Johnson in this thing saying we're gonna salvage, like they're all floating towards this stuff. They're like, oh, we're gonna salvage the ship that's floating, and it's just a Rocinante like floating in free form. And everybody's in suits, and the air's been taken out, and they're just wanting to fight. There's no leaking of anything. They get to the point where they get there, and the Rocinante flips on. You see Alex just get into that mode of like, I need to be a fucking good pilot, and he's basically honing in on his skill, using like the mouse and the keyboard of like trying to.
He's in the zone, man.
He's in the zone, like watching. Best scene of the whole thing because he's using the thrust and everything, rotating around and doing all this weird shit, using the PDCs and the railguns and everything that's on the Rocinante to fire at this thing, to fire at the stealth ship. They go in, they find it, and they start firing at it. They kind of gunfire exchange. There's holes in the Rocinante, there's holes in the stealth ship, and it's all floating around. And like just the way that he's controlling this ship and the level of control he has with what he's doing, and just the whole thing is just insane to watch because they've launched the two beer cans with a Belter army,
They had 50 guys. Yeah, they had 25 per beer can.
Correct. Yeah.
So
and Miller's freaking out. Miller's freaking out because he's never done a space. Yeah. So I mean, he's doing a thing. He's
puking into his fucking helmet, and it's fucking great.
It's awesome. So they launch both beer cans. One of them gets shot because apparently there's a gun on the space station that shoots out asteroids, but it's also going to shoot one of the beer cans. It shoots one of them. Luckily, it's not the one that Miller's in. But the Rocinante has to come around in a weird fashion, shoot that thing, and as they do that, the stealth ship comes around for a second approach. They fucking nail it, and it's gone. It's dead. It's dead in the water. Still, even though they have some damage themselves, but at least they get to fly and do shit. The beer can attaches. They go in and they find these scientists who are in these VR helmets, like going through like protomolecule stuff, like a human cloud computer or whatever it is. They're going through, and all the Belters are
That was a creepy scene.
It was creepy.
They walk into the room. All these scientists are sitting around in a circle. They've got this ridiculous VR headset on. They're yelling at them. They're not even fucking responding.
Because the Belters are like grabbing them and trying to pull them out of the seats. They're not moving. They're not doing anything.
Not doing nothing.
And Miller looks at the central unit that's there for all of them and like clicks something, and it turns off, and they all freak the fuck out. The Belters shoot them except for one of them. And then
that was such a fucking Tarantino scene, man. Like, wait, damn it, we need him alive. Most of them are dead, and they're like, we need him alive.
Yeah, and it's also once again the most Belter thing that happens because like they don't know what the fuck they're doing. They're barely an army. They're barely a unit.
They're trigger happy as fuck.
They barely agree on the same political views, and they're all in the same fucking unit together and try to have to be cohesive. It's ridiculous. You see the main scientist you saw in the last season, who was part of the who extracted stuff from Julie Mao's body and started the whole thing on Eros. He's there, and he's like he's talking to Miller, Holden, and Fred Johnson, and he's pleading. He's like, hey, you're in a good place to negotiate. Name your price, and I'll give you whatever you want. I'll give you the information. So let me continue my work. And he's the mad scientist who's been doing all this stuff, who's been helping Jules Pierre Mao perpetuate the protomolecule and kill all these Belters and just do this horrible shit to the whole place.
By mad scientists, we mean they're so laser focused on the work that they give no fucks who they're working for, who dies, whatever, just so they finish the task at hand.
Yeah, like it's a new level of cold and calculated. Like it's really terrifying that they're willing to kill like I think 100,000 people or whatever on a whim just to keep this thing going. Like it's fucking terrifying.
All of Euro Station, yeah.
Yeah, all of Euro Station, yeah. And so Miller gets tired of hearing it and shoots the guy in the head.
Yeah. Bing.
Yeah. Because I mean, like, it's one of those things where like you get it and you don't get it, but it's a wonderful character thing that Miller exudes because he's to the point of like no more fucks. So everybody's pissed. They go back to Tycho, and they're basically James Holden tells them to get the fuck off the Roci, get your shit and get the fuck off. Like you're done now. But also, what's happening with the UN and the Mars is like their ships are trying to converse. I think around Jupiter or Mars, whatever. What happens is that two of the ships almost get into it. The Martian ship shoots on the UN ship, but they didn't shoot it. They shoot across their bow and hit Phoebe Station, which is a science station That is a Mars UN joint science station that they destroy. The UN's fine, whatever, and then Avasarala is like, well, they shot one of ours, we'll shoot one of theirs, and they shoot Deimos, one of the moons of Mars. They kill 17 people. It's not a big thing, but it's a kind of like you fuck with us, I fuck with you thing, and it's fine. They've done their saber rattling, and they're over with. Miller is, he's living with one of the Belter kids and hates it, and he's just kind of like fuck it, whatever. He goes to Fred Johnson and has the most ridiculous off the wall idea of herding forever, and it's like we'll hijack the Nauvoo and we will crash it, and we will have it go as fast as we can like a battering ram and crash it into Eros and knock it into the sun. But before that, we're gonna get a bunch of Belters again with a bunch of nukes. Put them on the surface and nuke the surface. That's why nothing survives.
Belters and nukes. What could possibly go wrong, right?
So once again, we're in this position of like this happening, and this is the most ridiculous. Like, and the Rossi helps because they need a backup. They need backup as well. So the Rossi goes. The Nauvoo is the first thing to go because it's a giant fucking ship. You see it firing up and just heading in that direction. The Rossi goes along with the Belter ships. All go to Eros. The Belters have their nukes and things like that, and the Rossi's is there to monitor, to look on the surface and make sure that nothing's happening. While doing so, they encounter a smaller doctor ship or whatever, something like that. There's a conflict because they've been on the surface, and James Holden, and they're about to leave, and James Holden's like, don't leave, or we're gonna fucking shoot you. Has to make the hard decision. Shoots him. Kills him because he doesn't want any more of the protomolecule to be spread over the universe and have problems. By doing so, it impedes the success of the Belter's job to do the bombs.
When you blow something up in this universe, there's a causality to it, because it's like you blow something up and you have a debris that scatters everywhere and fucks everything up behind it. Like it's not like on Star Wars, you just get like a little star flower and then it's over with. No, there is shit everywhere when they blow stuff up.
Yeah, that's one thing I really love about the universe is that there's always a causality to everything you do. Not like you said in Star Wars, where like you'll shoot a fucking X-wing and go through it, and like it's not you're fine. Like, well, I went through the smoke, it's really cool. It's a Michael Bay thing. No, in this universe, if you blow something up, it causes a goddamn problem. Debris hits Miller where he is, and like one of the bombs he has no longer works. You have to like press a button on it every 5 minutes, or else
you have a dead man switch, basically.
He just kind of sits there. The Rossi goes as well. I think it has to go take care of something or something. They try to help him out, but he just can't. So he's just kind of sitting there waiting for the Nauvoo to come. The Nauvoo comes, and Eros dodges it entirely. It moves on its own, and it just becomes alive and starts to move. And it's the weirdest thing, because it's one of those points where you're just like, what? And they slowly realize it's heading towards Earth, and they're just like, fuck. Miller gets a bright idea of like, okay, I'm gonna take a nuke and go inside and go blow up the center of it. And he slowly does that, and he's clicking the button. There's dramatic scenes of him climbing up where he almost doesn't click the button correctly, and things happen with the giant fucking bomb that he has. But as it's going on, Earth is freaking out. Avasarala's in the goddamn DEFCON room, and with the president and everybody, and they're like, well, let's send nukes. They do so by painting the damn asteroid. Well, the asteroid is intelligent now, and somehow is no longer read by fucking radar and LiDAR. It's just invisible. It's fucking a stealth asteroid now. It gets so intelligent that it does that. It dodges the nukes. It's the weirdest thing. It's so great. It's a great part of the season. It's ridiculous. So then they get since the nukes are so far out, they have to get Tycho Station. They have to trust Fred Johnson to guide them in. And the Rossi has to keep up with this fucking asteroid to paint it with I guess LiDAR or whatever. So this way that the nukes will work. And also what's happening is that the fucking Rossi is chasing the asteroid, and the asteroid once again is intelligent and sees and goes faster. And like the Rossi can only go so fast because of so many G's and science and blah 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 blah. They have to stop and keep it only in like a long visual range. While this is happening, Miller is inside Eros, looking at all this blue shit floating around in his spacesuit, hauling a goddamn nuke around like a jackass. And he finally realizes that the seat of this whole thing is where Julie Mao is in the hotel they were in, in Eros. So he goes in there at some point, and like he's asking the Rossi and the ball people like give him faith, and then the Rossi's asking fucking the UNN to like give them faith, to give Miller faith so that he can get this shit not to hit Earth. Another really good moment in the show and a good scene in the show, because one that humanizes everything that's going on, even though you're dealing with an alien thing, where Miller talks to this like I guess this embodiment of Julie Mao, where she's just blue and just connected to all this stuff, and he's convincing her like, hey, I know you want to go home, but we can't. Let's go to Venus.
Yeah, Julie's been reincarnated as like a proto-molecule ghost. Like you can actually see her. That's a good way to put it. It's very eerie, yeah. Very eerie
and actually,
heartwarming but eerie at the same time.
I do really love that point because Miller's meeting Julie Mao, but not the way he wanted and not in the form that he expected. And the situation's all fucked up, but he's actually
he
meeting
wanted
her.
to find her before she died. Unfortunately,
Correct.
that didn't happen, and it just tore the soul out of fucking, just tore his heart out right out.
Yeah, and like it's one of those things where like he it's just
up until this point, he's been kind of on a vengeance quest, and then until he actually meets her spirit, more or less.
He does what he says he does, and he gets her to crash Eros into Venus. So it happens, and Earth is saved.
And that point feels like a season finale. It really does.
Yeah, and the way it's supposed to work in the book is that's the end of the book, and like a few other things happen as well. We'll get into. They wanted the cliffhanger of the first season to make you watch second season. That's what they wanted.
So if you're watching these in sequential order, because I noticed this too, it's like you go on to the next one, you don't even know you're on season 3 until you pause it, like, oh shit, I'm on season 3 now.
And the Rocinante goes dark for a little bit. They kind of do their own thing or whatever. We now see the Martian Marines, and they're really angry that they didn't get to, smash with the UN and fight them, whatever. They're given a shit task of going to Ganymede Station and, like, looking at the border. And, like, there's a border for Ganymede Station because Ganymede Station is the giant farming colony for the entire belt as opposed to...
Giant
Mars
fucking greenhouse on a rock.
Yeah, giant greenhouse is one of Jupiter's moons. They're put there at the border so this way that, UNN doesn't cross over and Mars doesn't cross over. They kind of do their own thing. All of a sudden, they see, using their HUDs, that the UNN is firing. And then I think there's, like, Bobby Draper sees is that there's 7 of them. They're shooting at the 7th person. As they're seeing this, their comms go out all over the place. And one of the mirrors on Ganymede, which is the mirrors to reflect sunlight to make more food, explodes or gets shot and is torn apart. Another wonderful, beautiful check mark to the show of them doing this is because they don't have comms. They can't talk to each other. They can't hear because there's no air. So they do this thing where their helmets touch. And they have to talk through vibrations and really loudly and like specifically. And I fucking love that part because it's one of those things where it's like, oh, this is a real thing that will have to happen. She tells Marines to spread out to do and to fire on these things or whatever.
They show the mirror falling. You don't actually see the fight, okay? You see what happened after the fight. Yeah. Then you see Draper laying there, she's like barely alive, and then you see in the reflection in her face helmet of this really glowy looking fucking alien thing.
She's on her last breath. Like it's bad. But you do see this creature very briefly and very kind of like askew in the darkness, kind of, and you don't really see it fully, and it's really just like, what the fuck is it? Because it's a humanoid creature not wearing a spacesuit. Abasarala gets some information about another stealth ship that's just kind of dead in the water from Fred Johnson and puts it out into a shipping lane. Well, it's found by somebody in the shipping lane, and it's they do the background checking, and apparently Jules Pierre Mao made it, and now he's under attack because apparently the stealth ships were made on Earth and made by him. So he comes into the UN and starts to like grovel at Abasarala's feet, and it's like, hey, some people from my business have made this. I didn't know what's happening. They're making stealth ships, and I'm controlling billions of people, and I don't know what's going on, and that was his excuse. She doesn't buy it, and it's just like get the fuck out of here.
Draper's saved, and they try to tell her like, this is what you saw, and she's like, no, I saw a 7th man, and he didn't have a vac suit on. And they're like, what the fuck? Mars is trying to avoid a war at this point.
Yeah, they're trying to avoid a war in a shitty. Like, I understand the broad strokes of like them avoiding a war. It's fine, but the way Draper sees it at her level of being infantry and being a soldier is that it's shitty.
They're telling her to lie. Yeah.
They're telling her to lie, and they're telling her to put one of her buddies like under the bus. At that point, we are introduced to another character, Praxima. I'll just call him Prax. Prax is a botanist on Ganymede. We are introduced to him aboard a refugee ship. The crew from the Rossi finds it because they're looking for people from Ganymede who are involved in Jules Pierre Mao's stuff, and they're looking for connections to people who are connected. And they find him on Tycho, and they kind of confront him in a very aggressive. He doesn't know what's going on because he's literally just a botanist who works with plants to make sure they grow properly on Ganymede so they can harvest them and make more food for people. That's all he does. Because what's happened, he's lost his daughter. He thinks she's dead, and they're kind of on a mission. And Holden, I think, sees a way of like trying to help more people because he's really hates what happened on Eros. So he's trying to like
Yeah,
become
all them
more
are carrying a
aggressive.
massive guilt for Eros.
There is a point where Drummer and this happens on Tycho as well. I think is out of the so many nukes that were fired at Earth, like some of them just like exploded and went away. About 30 are saved by Fred Johnson. They keep them at Tycho Station for a deterrent for OPA or whatever.
Bargaining chips. Yeah.
Bargaining chips. Thank you, bargaining chips. So some of the OPA know this, the lower level dumb ones. There's a peace summit on Earth after Ganymede to kind of realize what's happening and to negotiate and things like that. And so Earth hosts it because why not? Avasarala wants answers for Ganymede and what's happening. So they bring Draper as well because she was one of the Marines on there who
She's
the only one out of her unit.
Yeah, the first-hand account of what happened there.
Yeah, and she's the only one out of her unit that survived. So that's why they want her, because she's military. She probably has a lot of better recollection.
She has strict orders not to mention the guy that she saw that's not in the vac suit. Like, you don't
even though she does during an interview with Avasarala.
That's the best part right there. Like,
but she finds out through questioning her, like, this blue creature didn't have a vac suit on. They freak out. Bobby Draper goes back and forth between being in her room and being told off. And because Bobby Draper's on Earth, she really wants to see the ocean. She really, really wants to see the ocean. She finally gets the guts and just breaks open her fucking window of her room.
Yeah, with a spoon.
Falls out, and eventually, like, she finds it by going through, like, I guess, the slums near the UN or whatever, and Avasarala finds out that she's escaped and is going to go question her. Avasarala finds out through her spy, Cotier, that Mars is the one who made the creature. She tells Bobby Draper this, and she's like, I wish to God it was my government, so I knew what was going on, but it was yours. So Draper's not real happy about this, and she gets taken back to the UN building, to the Mars consulate. She then beats up her subordinate and makes him admit to this. And it's one of those things where, like, you get to see her hand-to-hand combat without her suit on, and she's a fucking badass. She beats her way out, gets his communicator that has the information on it, runs across the street, literally to the American consulate, puts her hands up and says, I'm looking for political asylum to the UN.
She defects.
Goes to Avasarala, gives the evidence, and is in her good graces. All this is going on. Aaron Wright, like, basically Avasarala, around this time, Avasarala tells Aaron Wright, like, I know that you're fucking doing, and you're gonna be, because of what happened with Eros, you're gonna be put in court, and you're gonna be tried and everything because you almost killed the goddamn planet, and you knew about this. I think she gets really tired of dealing with that, and she then halts all the Jules Pierre Mao's contracts with the U.S. and makes it to where, like, their whole family is a pariahs and they can't go anywhere and do anything. They have no money. He calls her and invites him to his giant, like, elaborate fucking, like, yacht.
His yacht in space. Yeah, big old giant fucking thing.
Big old giant fucking spaceship.
He says, "You meet me on the ship, and we'll negotiate, the terms of my surrender."
Basically, yeah. And
wants his family to be left alone. Basically.
Yeah. Cote is like, it's a trap, and she's like, I fucking know it's a trap. And they bring Bobby Draper with her to that yacht. Yeah, it's a trap, and basically Mao leaves, and Aaron Wright says, "Fucking kill her." He sends a message while they're both meeting there to Jules Pierre Mao. It's like, just fucking kill her, just do it. And that message is saved somewhere, in the yacht system. And while this is going on, like, they're getting shot at, they're trying to escape, but luckily they brought Bobby Draper's armor.
The power
so
suit.
She has to like find a vent, find her way down, kick some ass, and go get it and put it on.
Running around on the outside of the ship, that was fucking great. This is a very action-packed season, this one. Yeah.
So many things. Okay, so now what's happening with the Rossi crew while this is all going on with Avasarala on the government side of stuff, political side of stuff? We catch up with the Rossi while all this political stuff is going on. They're at Tycho Station, refueling and dealing with, I guess, just what's been going on because of all kinds of stuff. Holden discovers what's I think the proto-molecule shout, or as Eros was happening or something, he figures it out, that there was also a little fluctuation on Ganymede Station because I guess the proto-molecule was there. They were doing some stuff with it. So he finds out that Dr. Strickland is a part of Jules Pierre Mao's employment or whatever, and he figures out he was also there in Ganymede. Prax knows Strickland because he's the doctor for his daughter. So there's a weird thing there, and they didn't know what's going on, so they all head to Ganymede, and they don't want to go in their ship because it'll seem too obvious. So they commandeer a smaller ship. They try to use their Mars outfits they have on, their stuff to try to commandeer ship. Doesn't happen. Doesn't go really well. They still commandeer a refugee ship. They both go down there. It's Amos, Prax, and Naomi. Alex is left in the ship, and he has to leave it on one of the moons behind it so that he doesn't get detected. So he's just drinking on the ship, listening to music, like doing dumb shit because he can.
That's that scene that I had mentioned in the last episode where he does that backflip and he kind of floats in the air and pours the drink out into the air and he backflips and just kind of walks up and goes.
They get on Ganymede. They're trying to find their way around and what happened, and they can't. So they meet this little fucking belter asshole kid who's like trading chicken for information, cans of chicken for information. Amos gets real mad at him because he's a bully. So he almost beats his head in with a fucking can of chicken.
That's what Amos does. Yeah.
After about 2 or 3 punches to the head, the kid becomes really cooperative and like gets him the information. Like, he went down this way, and the camera shows him going to this room, and then no more cameras because it's an old part of the station. So they go down there, and they find it, and they kind of get ready to go. They give Prax a weapon, which is a bad idea, but whatever. So they go in, and they see there are scientists and I guess guard people sitting there. So the guards get up and start shooting people, the Rosie crew. They all go down. The scientists go out. They leave. Amos takes a shot to the shoulder. No big deal. It's Amos. He's a tank. It sucks, but he'll deal. And they're sitting there, talking for a second. And Prax finds his daughter's backpack, and he's like, "Oh shit, she was here." They also find a kid in like a freezer tube, I guess, and the kid's dead.
That was fucking unsettling. Like really fucking unsettling.
Yeah. And Holden makes the tough decision again, and incinerates the body, so this way there's no more of the portal molecule. And as they come back into the room and they're trying to collect their thoughts, the idiot scientist throw a grenade into the room, and then Amos is like, "Grenade!" Takes it and throws it back at them. And all you hear are these sounds.
Just people dying in the next room.
Yeah, people dying, and then all of a sudden there's an explosion. There's like a fucking a vacuum alert, and then that stops, and then they go into the room. Come to find out that the scientists are holding a creature that was made through portal molecule, and they're all dead. The main female scientist is dying on the floor. They question her, and she's dead. And all they see is this door that's closed, but something that's burst through it. They have no idea what it is. And while this is happening, Alex is trying to come around and help them because shit's going down. Like, things are going nuts outside. So he doesn't use the main thruster because he'll be seen. So he uses the he does in the book what's called tea kettling. Tea kettling is using the steam thrusters, the water that they have in their system, to just move around. Those are the small ones you see on the ship in the show. So he uses those to maneuver around using moon's gravities of fucking all of them to get where he needs to go. He does, and he appears in this open doorway. And as they're looking through, they see this blue creature just jumping around without a vac suit on, and they freak the fuck out. So Holden's like, "Fuck this, we're going to hunt that goddamn thing down." While this is happening, Naomi's really unsettled by all this, and she goes to try to help the smaller refugee ship. Gets her and Amos, and they go to the ship, help the refugee ship, get as many people on it as they can, and save as many lives as they can, and just go. So she's trying to help fix it and get it going and get it running, at least to where it'll kind of limp along and be able to take as many people as it can. And just while this is happening, Holden, Alex, and Prax are on the Rosie hunting this thing down. They're using every sensor they can without getting detected to find this thing. They find it's in one of the domes of the fallen thing, and they try shooting it, but it's jumping around, just jumping and jumping around. So they can't get it anymore, and they have to help Naomi's ship because it's about to get fired upon by UNN or Mars or whatever. And Holden. At this point, we also didn't mention that Holden and Naomi are fucking. So she goes and rescues her and makes sure that she makes it to where she has to. I think it's also Tycho Station. And they, right before the refugee ship leaves, they link up, and she gets back on the ship. And so while they're doing so, they're trying to do repairs on the ship, and they find that that blue creature they were hunting down has gotten into the ship. And it's once again in this season another jarring, ridiculous moment because the way they show it is awesome.
You don't get much of a breath in this season, man.
No, you don't, because there's
one
so many
fucking crazy thing to the next fucking crazy thing. So now they got to figure out how to get this crazy fucking thing off the ship, and it actually starts tearing up the ship because they figured out it's feeding off of the nuclear energy. It reaches into its chest, Nick, and it pulls out what is obviously a control device to operate this thing. Like they're supposed to be remotely operated. Like you can tell them what to do and all that kind. It reaches into its own chest, pulls that shit out, throws it out of the airlock that's already been broken up from the previous battle that they were in. And they realized that was the failsafe. Like this thing knew that it had a failsafe inside of it that was supposed to explode if this thing got too far away from the area that they were testing it on. So
it's
and then it wants to feed on the nuclear energy, and in the process of doing this, Holden and Amos actually go and try to terminate this fucking thing, and they just get bitch slapped in the fucking next week by this thing, and it doesn't. It shakes them off like dust, throws Holden against the wall, and then throws one of the fucking crates against Holden, and the mag locks activate and smashes him up against the wall. Like his leg is completely shattered, so he's trapped behind this fucking crate that has the mag locks activated, and now everybody's trying to figure out how to get this fucking thing off the ship. So Frankenstein comes up with the brilliant idea that, well, maybe it won't tear the ship apart if we give it another food source and get it to go the other way. So they decided to activate one of the nukes out in space outside the airlock, so that if it gets scent of it, it'll chase out after that. And then, lo and behold, that shit fucking works. Like they make that work. Okay?
Yeah, because it actually gets a scent of it. It really does.
It really does. It's like it's working. It fucking goes out the airlock, and then what they do is they trick it. They flip the ship while it's got a hold of the fucking nuke. And then they burn it up with the fucking afterburners. Like they literally take the device out of the nuke so that it doesn't blow up the fucking Razanati. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
So there's that. But they did incinerate it in the fucking afterburners. The end of the season ends with they're leading an expedition to Venus where that thing crashed. Okay, where Eero Station crashed.
That's what it is. Yep, you're right.
They investigate Eero Station. It's not really important to talk about everything that happens in the ship on the way to Eero Station, or on the way to Venus, I should say. Yeah. Just when they get into the atmosphere of Venus and they're about to land where Eero Station crashed into Venus, okay, because they're picking up all kinds of anomalies and whatnot. The ship literally comes apart. Like you just see it kind of just goes, like you don't even hear any fucking noise. The guys are just floating around like, and you see every little nut and bolt and everything inside the ship as it's trying to land. Like something, whatever crashed into Venus, just completely disassembled a ship in orbit, like before it could fucking even land.
Yeah,
that's where it ended. Yeah,
it's a really eerie sight, but it's kind of like, wow, that's the power of the protomolecules. That it's just powerful.
Every season ends on something crazy that this protomolecule does. It's like, oh well, if you thought that was fucking crazy, we got one more for you. It's that whole reverse psych. And the other thing that they revealed too just before that was that Naomi was supposed to destroy the protomolecule. Like they all agreed, and Naomi secretly did not destroy the protomolecule. She decided to keep it and hide it somewhere because she felt like the Belt should have access to that technology. And she reveals it to the crew, and they don't take it very well. Okay, so
because Alex wanted it for Mars, and then Holden's like, no, we're gonna shoot into the sun. And everyone's like, nope, shoot into the sun. It's a good idea.
Everybody agreed to shoot into the sun, except Naomi secretly decided to keep it any fucking way. So
I don't know, Belters are weird. They can't agree on one thing, but whenever like the stakes are against them, they immediately get really defensive and like, oh, we need that thing too. It's like, but you're not gonna use it.
This one I'm still going to give a 4 because this one's exact opposite of the first season, whereas the first season, it's kind of a slow burn. There's a lot of world building. This one has so much story thrown at you over a span of 13, it's almost impossible for us to cover it in an entire episode. I wish we were doing these, episode by episode, but we don't have time because the new episode's coming as we're recording these. So still giving it a 4. The action's a lot better. You get a little bit more invested. You start to get attached, really get attached to these characters by the end of the season.
I'm gonna give it 5 out of 5 just because of the pure action and all the ridiculousness that happens during this season. Because of you do see Eros crash into Venus, you do see Miller die unfortunately, and that whole story, him meeting Julie Mao. You do see the ridiculous thing they do with the beer cans and like the Alex doing that whole run there. You see the government stuff. You see the conclusion of Jules Pierre Mao's story of Asarla, Bobby Draper, the the MCRN Marines. Just the sheer craziness of this season reminds me of an 80s action movie. Like, it is just thick with it. It is a lot of fun. There is, once again, a lot to process. I think even more so than the first season. But it's a lot of conclusions and a lot of wrapping up of story ends that need to happen. But because of that, I like it, and I think it's more action packed, and I'm okay with that as opposed to the first season, which is world building. But this one had a lot of stuff in it, and I really enjoyed it.
I'm Groovinator with Raiders of the Lost Flicks with Nik and Tam from World Class Bullshitters. You guys have yourselves a groovy day.